Access. I'm MJ Acosta-Ruiz, and we begin in Green Bay, where the drama is now a divide, where the hostility is now a holdout. On the first day of mandatory minicamp, the reigning MVP was a no-show. Matt LaFleur, how worried should Packers fans be right about now?
I'm not going to get into my conversations with Aaron and the communication. And I think, I'm naturally optimistic, but, again, we'll take it day by day and just do whatever we can to help remedy this situation. I think anytime you're talking about any player on your football team, you'd love everybody to be here. And so, it's certainly, it is what it is, man.
Yes, the old it is what it is gambit. Tom Pelissero, he joins us now from Green Bay. Tom, I'd buy that if it wasn't the reigning MVP. Now, you were at practice today. What was the players' reaction to not having Rodgers there?
Well, MJ, not a surprise to Packers players or coaches that Aaron Rodgers is now officially a holdout by missing the start of the mandatory minicamp. They, of course, follow the news, and many players have spoken directly to Rodgers, including left tackle David Bakhtiari, who said, as a friend, he'll never hold a grudge against Rodgers. He just cares about him. As a teammate, Bakhtiari said, I would be idiotic to say I don't want the MVP back. Wide receiver Davante Adams said 3 times he is praying that Rodgers returns to the Packers, but Adams also voiced some support for Jordan Love, who took the majority of reps in the first minicamp practice, more even than a normal starting quarterback would get. Performance on day one for Love, up and down, throwing to a bunch of receivers who had not been here for OTAs, but the Packers are trying to make up for lost time because, remember, in Love's rookie season, there was no offseason because of COVID. There was no preseason. As Coach Matt LaFleur put it, every rep is valuable to Jordan Love right now.
Tom, what about Davante Adams? He skipped OTAs, but he was in attendance today. What can you tell us about Tay?
Well, Davante Adams was in attendance, MJ, on day one of minicamp. He was in uniform, just didn't do a whole lot on the field. He was a spectator during most drills, just kind of worked off to the side during the 11-on-11 periods. Now, Adams said it is not an injury. He's just being smart. There were some younger players who needed to get some reps. He is in a contract year. Asked whether or not he'll be showing up to training camp without a contract extension, Adams said yes. He pointed out that he grew up with $0 in East Palo Alto, California, and said he is not going to be forfeiting any money that he has earned. Like Aaron Rodgers or any other veteran on this type of contract, Adams would be subject to daily fines of $50,000 if he misses training camp, as well as potential bonus forfeiture. The Packers, it should be noted, not saying, MJ, whether Aaron Rodgers will be fined for missing this minicamp.
Tay Adams not leaving 1 cent on the table. Tom, we'll see you a little later in the show for more on this. All right, let's welcome in our Super Bowl champs, Michael Robinson and James Jones. JJ, you've said Aaron doesn't need to show up to minicamp, but now that he's officially a holdout, any worry that maybe he won't suit up for the Pack ever again?
Like Allen Iverson said, we talking about practice? We talking about practice? You do not have to show up for minicamp. I'm not worried about him showing up for minicamp at all, and neither should the players and neither should the coaching staff and the GM. They knew this was coming, all right? 12 is not there. As long as he's there for training camp and we're getting ready to go out here and compete and put a football team on the field to go win a Super Bowl, that's all that matters. Minicamp does not matter. You just heard them say Davante Adams didn't take no reps. You think Aaron's going to come into minicamp and just take all these reps and get better? No, he's not going to come into minicamp. You don't take a lot of reps in minicamp, so you do not need to be there. So I am not surprised, and I'm not worried at all, MJ.
Well, yeah, James, so I feel you're not surprised, you're not worried, but I think this is maybe the first minicamp Aaron Rodgers has missed like this, so there is some level of concern, but I agree with you, okay? I do think this thing will be fixed by training camp. I think the meeting of the minds will happen. I think everybody will come together and cooler heads will prevail. And so I do think Aaron Rodgers will be playing for the Green Bay Packers in 2021, but James, 2022, That's a whole different story right there. I don't think he'll be playing for the Green Bay Packers in 2022. I think it's too much damage done. I think it's too much personal things that's been put out there in the media. I think he's said some things. I think the organization has done some things. So I do think this will be Aaron Rodgers' last year there. He'll probably win a Super Bowl again and get a game away from the Super Bowl. I mean, win a MVP and get a game away from the Super Bowl and then leave. That's Aaron Rodgers.
So, Mike Rob, you saying if he wins MVP, he's still not returning next season? Is that what you're telling me?
Not if the front office is structured the way it is and the philosophy is the way it is. What else do you want the man to do?
Mike Rob, you trying to get everybody fired. If he win MVP, he gonna be on this team next year.
Restructuring through M-Rob and his comments alone. All right, guys, thank you. Now, the hope in Green Bay that Aaron Rodgers shows up for Packers training camp. The hope in Dallas that Dak Prescott will be fully recovered by the start of Cowboys training camp. And according to his head coach, Dak's on track.
He's done everything. He hasn't missed anything that's been slated. I mean, you know, he's doing a lot of extra, frankly. So the anticipation would be for him to go to every day is the outlook. But, you know, we'll obviously, you know, we're not naive. I mean, it's just like any player that comes back from injury, especially major joint injury. It's, you know, that first year back, there's going to be some things you have to work through. And but I would anticipate a start with him in a full mode and, you know, get him into the team meeting, the team periods, and just, you know, get back to playing football.
Back with Michael Robinson. Of course, Jane Slater hopping in here cannot have this conversation without our expert. Jane, you were at practice today. How did that look to you?
Yeah, we saw him last week at OTAs, and of course, we saw him at minicamp today, MJ. And look, I think he's out there, he's moving around. We're seeing him rolling to the left, to the right, as almost like they're trying to test that ankle a bit. I was told he's chopping at the bit to get in there with the 11-on-11, but we're seeing him do a lot of those 7-on-7. In his absence, we've seen Garrett Gilbert basically stepping up and getting work in with the ones. So they're holding him back a bit. But there was one point even during practice when he's not engaging with other players. He was doing the Dak dance, working on the torque, working on the throwing motion, very much like Drew Brees would typically do when you'd see Drew Brees out with injury. But I think the biggest thing that stands out to me is just having Dak Prescott back at practice. The confidence that he instills in this team goes back to what I saw his rookie year when this team went 13-3 following Tony Romo's injury. Guys just feel like when they've got Dak Prescott out there, it gives them their best chance to succeed. And it was left tackle Tyron Smith who now sort of joked about the fact that he's entering his 11th year in the league. How much just seeing Dak Prescott work out alongside him and others during the offseason conditioning push them. When you see a quarterback like him pushing himself, I feel like they've got to push themselves that much harder.
Jane, that's the effect that a franchise quarterback has on the entire franchise. And they missed that last year when Dak Prescott got injured. I mean, you just look at how he affected that offense, right? First of all, when he was playing, he was on a record pace, was going to throw for 1 million yards, right? We already knew that. But just look how he affected everybody else. Ezekiel Elliott with Dak Prescott, almost 110 scrimmage yards. Without Dak Prescott, under 80. I mean, the wide receivers, same thing. All of these guys' production went way down. So you need Dak Prescott out there. And if I was Mike McCarthy, yes, I know they're taking it slow right now. It's what, June 8th, okay? Of course, take it slow right now. But at the beginning of that season, I'm calling every pass play I can to get Dak Prescott comfortable, to get him happy, because the biggest obstacle is Dak Prescott himself feeling comfortable. The doctors are probably going to say, look, dude, you're good. But he hadn't had those live bodies flying around his legs and things like that in the pocket like will happen in a real game. So if I'm the Dallas Cowboys, I want to get Dak Prescott fired up as soon as possible, because offensively, this team is loaded.
Now, Jane, the Cowboys, of course, did not shy away from addressing their biggest weakness this offseason. Micah Parsons, the first of 6 straight defensive picks to start the draft. How has Parsons looked in this new-look defense so far?
He's looking so good. I can't necessarily tell you guys everything that we're seeing in practice because we are limited, but I will tell you they are getting very creative with this defense in the sense that it looks like they're trying to find ways to make sure that that first-round pick, Micah Parsons, gets in there. And it's not just because he's their first-round pick. You talk to a lot of these players, they're seeing not only his confidence, but the fact that he's making plays, it seems, week in and week out, just from OTAs and, of course, here at minicamp. And I thought was interesting, too, is, he was also a star defensive end in high school. And apparently he's done a little pass rushing this spring. And it was DeMarcus Lawrence who essentially said to him, "Hey, Rook, didn't know you could pass, get in the pass rush like that." And I'm trying to read exactly. He said, "All right, tap in with me." So high praise from a guy like DeMarcus Lawrence. He said that they are going to sort of get some work in this offseason. But the one that also stood out for me, and, we talk so much about them going all in on defense, I think it's the way that these players are talking about Dan Quinn so quickly. Randy Gregory, of course, known for some of the off-the-field issues, says he doesn't want that to be the narrative about him anymore, but says he feels so good about what this coaching staff is bringing to the table. He said Dan Quinn worked him out ahead of pre-draft when he was at Nebraska and loves his intensity. He voiced frustrations about not getting a lot of playing time last year. And a couple of the players, now Randy Gregory and Leighton Vander Esch, seem to suggest that Dan Quinn's getting their skill set a little bit better, and they're going back to positions they feel naturally better at. So I'm already just seeing an enthusiasm. The coverage seems really good at practice. It seems like the defense got the best of offense today. So that, to me, is the biggest thing that we've seen in terms of turning the corner. We all know defense was an Achilles heel last year.
Yeah, it's the "hey, Rook" that gets me every single time. I'm sure the players too, but the Cowboys, of course, gave up the 5th most points in the NFL last year. Big point of emphasis now. All right, thanks, everybody. As we go from one NFC East team to another, the Giants held a mandatory minicamp today as Saquon Barkley continues his rehab. Head coach Joe Judge said, quote, "We couldn't be happier with his progress and that the team will make sure Saquon is 100% recovered from his knee injury before he's back on the field." In Orchard Park today, the Bills were on the field for OTAs. Well, most of them were. Among the no-shows were wide receiver Stephon Diggs and Emmanuel Sanders, who attended last week's voluntary practices. Jaguars on the field for OTAs as well today. Number 1 overall pick Trevor Lawrence sat out of drills with hamstring tightness. Head coach Urban Meyer says he should return to the field on Thursday after an off day. More on the Jaguars a little later in the show. Right now, let's welcome in Ian Rappaport. Ian, the Titans acquiring Julio Jones, a major move, but in order to pull it off, they had to do a little salary cap gymnastics with Ryan Tannehill's contract. What more can you tell us on that?
Yeah, they did, MJ. That is what the Tennessee Titans spent today doing, and this has been a trade in several different facets. Of course, Sunday, striking the deal with the Atlanta Falcons for a 2nd-round pick and a little more for Julio Jones yesterday, and then into today. Jones took his physical. Doesn't sound like anything alarming or concerning there. And then today was about creating the cap space necessary to facilitate this deal. So, of course, Ryan Tannehill with the 4-year, $118 million extension originally was set to count against the cap $24.5 million this year. They took most of that, turned it into a signing bonus, spread it out through the rest of the contract, plus 2 voidable years. Anyway, clears $18.3 million in cap space, more than enough to fit the $15.3 million fully guaranteed in Julio Jones' contract. Meanwhile, Jones took to Instagram today, thanked the city.
Keep his communications with Rodgers private, and that he's naturally optimistic about the situation working out. Elsewhere, the Falcons opened up their minicamp minus Julio Jones, who was traded to the Titans on Sunday. Head coach Arthur Smith was asked about how the offense will fare without Julio. His response, quote, "I don't worry about players I've never coached." Okay. All right, James Jones, you've never coached Julio Jones either, but I'm going to go ahead and ask you this. How productive will the Falcons offense be without Julio Jones this year?
I think the Falcons offense is going to be very productive without Julio Jones. You look at the weapons that they have. You have Calvin Ridley, who I believe is a top 5 receiver in our game, and is actually better when Julio Jones is not on the football field. With Julio Jones on the football field, he averages about 65 yards a game and 4 catches. Without Julio, he averages 7 catches and 109 yards. So you get way more production out of Calvin Ridley when Julio Jones is not on the field. And then you give him a buddy. You give him Kyle Pitts over there, and he already has Hayden Hurst. This offense is still going to be dynamic without Julio Jones.
You know, Julio has missed 25 games in his career. In that time, the Falcons were 9-16 when he wasn't on the field. All right, JJ, thanks. Julio not the only big name gone in that division. No more Drew Brees at quarterback for the Saints, where Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston are battling for snaps. But listening to them talk about each other, well, they're not letting the competition ruin their friendship.
Our main focus is to win. And to be our best selves. And I think that's what I respect about Taysom because he is a man that can do so many great things for this team. He has done so many great things for this organization since he's been here.
I'm super supportive to him, and I've felt nothing but support from him as well. And that goes back to last year when I was playing. Jameis was super supportive. He and I had a lot of conversations, and through that process, and he was great through that whole thing. So that has not changed, and he's become a really good friend.
I mean, they're right on brand with the National Best Friend Day hashtag. But listen, the Saints are having their first quarterback competition in a long time, and Rob, everybody wants to be QB1. How do you see this playing out?
Yeah, MJ, just like you said, it's hard for me to even think about the New Orleans Saints without Drew Brees as their quarterback. So they haven't had to think about this. But I have a lot of faith in Sean Payton that he's going to get the most out of the position now. Just looking at the two guys, Jameis Winston, and I know this comes up a lot. The guy threw 30 interceptions, in 2019? 30. And I don't know if people truly understand how many interceptions that is. Last year, Carson Wentz led the league with 15. You had Eli Manning a couple years ago lead the league in interceptions with like 22. But 30? I don't know about that one. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure Sean Payton get the most out of him, but I'm just not too sure about that one. And then you have Taysom Hill. I'm not so sure if he's an every down quarterback. When I look at this quarterback room for the New Orleans Saints, and I know my guy Mike Thomas gonna be pissed off at me. I just don't see where they're elite. I think they're one of the bottom quarterback rooms. So got a lot of faith in Sean Payton in this organization, but they got a lot of work to do at the quarterback position.
I mean, to your point, Rob, Taysom Hill has started 4 games at QB. Jameis, and I'm taking those 30 picks and putting in my pocket for a second, he started 7. So let's think about that. Thanks, Rob. All right, JC's Panthers. The Panthers are in the midst of OTAs, and they have a new QB in Sam Darnold, but a lot of eyes are on rookie cornerback J.C. Horn, who, by the way, was the first defensive player taken off the board in this year's draft. And he's right here with us on Total Access, the 8th overall pick, the league's newest shutdown corner. J.C., thank you so much for joining us.
Well, yes, ma'am. I'm glad to be here.
All right, so OTAs are in full swing. Have you had a welcome to the NFL sort of reality check moment yet?
Nah, not yet. I mean, the closest thing to it, I could just say, is being around A.J. Bouye. He's one of the corners I looked up to when I was younger. And just being around him every day, getting to learn different things from him, it's kind of like a big eye-opening moment, but I'm sure there's more to come.
Right, you're like, I'm sure it's coming. Brace him for impact. All right, you were the first defensive player taken in the draft, as we mentioned, so I'm sure you're aware of the expectations here. Outside of being named Defensive Rookie of the Year, how would you define a successful season for you?
Just finding my role on the team and just dominating that role. Doing my job, doing what the coaches and my teammates expect of me, and exceeding those expectations. That'll be a solid year for me. And also getting some wins. That'll be a great year.
Now, JC, your dad, Joe Horn, was a longtime player in this league. I'm sure he shared tons of advice for you. Can you maybe give us one of the gems that he's told you about approaching your rookie year?
Really, well, the main gem is the rookie duties. Just make sure you're doing them to the best of your ability. And then 2, just soak in all the knowledge you can. You know, you're new in the league. You're around a lot of guys who've been proven veterans who did it at the highest of the highest in this league. So just try to learn from them day in and day out. And just told me that'll help me be okay. So that's what I'm trying to do.
I love that we use the video of the cell phone in the goalpost there for your dad. Now, of course, he was a wide receiver. So is there a receiver you really want to go up against this season? Maybe someone on your dad's former teams, the Saints or the Falcons?
I said Julio. He was in the division, but he just left because, he's one of the greatest receivers to do it. And like I said, he was one of the guys I looked up to who's been dominating the NFL a long time. So it'd definitely be cool to line up against him.
This close, JC. I'm sure you'll get a chance at some point. All right, you were the 8th overall pick. You chose number 8 as your jersey number, in part to honor Kobe Bryant. What was it about Kobe that inspired you so much?
Mainly just his mentality. It's two different sports, but just the way he approached the game, the way he practiced, he just took everything serious. And I feel like, he got all of what he wanted out of basketball just because he put his all into it. And that's kind of how I'm trying to approach my day-to-day life is, I'm new in the NFL and just trying to leave everything out there, man, because, this game don't last forever.
It's the perfect mindset. JC, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck at OTAs and minicamp.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate you guys.
I mean, he's a grown man, and I truly don't know everything of what's going on with the situation. I think people expect me to know more, but I don't pry, I don't poke. I just kind of, situations like this, you got to let people come to you and I'm not going to give any unsolicited advice. I think that it's the best to just let him do his thing, figure it out, let him know that I'm here for him, and keep giving him that support and backing him up with that. And like I said, the moment that he gets back, which I'm praying for, and I think we all are, we'll get right back to it like we were before.
Tom Pelissero is at Packers minicamp. Tom, after what we've seen and heard these last few weeks, I mean, we can't pretend to be surprised that Aaron Rodgers was a no-show. But what was the team's reaction to his absence?
Well, MJ, you heard Davante Adams, who was certainly strong in his support of Aaron Rodgers. Actually, at one point dropped a not safe for TV word before catching himself and apologizing and moving on. Adams also said 3 times he is praying that Rodgers returns to the team. And he was careful to say that's not a slight against the Packers front office, saying they should want players who back up the other guys in the locker room. Left tackle David Bakhtiari struck a similar tone, saying as a friend of Aaron Rodgers, he cares for him. He's not going to hold a grudge regardless how this works out. As a teammate, Bakhtiari said, I would be idiotic if I said I didn't want the MVP back. For now, it's Jordan Love, who was up and down on day 1 of minicamp, throwing to a bunch of wide receivers who had not been here during OTAs. The Packers are encouraged with some of the mechanical cleanups that Love has done, and the more familiar he gets with this offense, the better his footwork and rhythm becomes. Adams hasn't been around much either, but he said that Love is locked in, and I can see it. MJ?
All right, Tom, thank you for today and all the days to come, by the way, because we know you are all over this story, as you have been. Tom Pelissero, thank you. Down in Tampa, it was Tom Brady's first day back at practice with the Bucs, and he showed no signs of rust, throwing a touchdown pass to Chris Godwin and connecting with Gronk on a few passes. Too. Brady, who's coming off knee surgery, was a full go except for blitz drills. All part of the plan, according to Bruce Arians.
They looked fine. I had to pull him out a couple. That first period, I said, okay, you can have 4. They kept begging to go back in, but the only thing I didn't want him in was the blitz period where, some guys might get around him too quick. We'd still be careful with what we're doing with him, and trying to stop him from playing is pretty tough.
Arians says he was most impressed that Brady was practicing at full speed. Full speed. Not a term usually associated with the 43-year-old, but the fact is that Tom's been winning the battle against time pretty much forever. Is this the year, though, that time catches up, JJ?
Well, my brother right there next to me right here, he knows that I come on the show plenty of times saying Tom Brady is done. Tom Brady does not have the arm strength anymore. He can't not make all these throws. And that's how it looked half the season last year. It looked like, man, they need to put him on the bench because he's not making these throws. And then Tom finds a way to throw the ball 100 yards, be on point, be accurate, and look like he's 21 years old out there playing. So I think that's exactly what we'll see this season. We'll see some up and down with Tom Brady. It'll be some games to where he looks 44. And then it'll be some games where he looks 21 and we're sitting over here like, man, this guy still has it. I think that's the type of season that he will have. And you never know. He might be sitting there holding up another Super Bowl. But it will be an up and down season for Tom.
Man, you ain't lying, James. I feel the same way, man. Look, I agree with you. Yeah, you were the guy on Total Access talking about how old Tom was getting. And late in the season last year, I kind of started to agree with you because between weeks, 9 and 12, they went 1-3, man. I'm thinking, look, man, this is it for this team. And then they went on after the bye week to win 4 straight and get hot. And that's the Tom Brady effect, man. That's just his mental prowess, how he makes everybody better around him. I mean, I just don't see this guy slowing down. It's just he's had the experiences. He's done everything. You're right, James. They could be hoisting another Lombardi trophy in 2021.
And not only that, Mike Rob, when you listen to his coach talk, Bruce Arians, this dude has played for 30 years in the National Football League, and his coach has to fight to keep him out of a blitz period after knee surgery. So that just shows you the hunger that this dude still is chasing something, chasing greatness. It's going to be tough to slow him down.
And for you at home, don't miss your chance to check in on the GOAT at Bucs Minicamp. We've got your all-access passes. Godwin and connecting with Gronk on a few passes, too. Brady, who's coming off knee surgery, was a full go except for blitz drills. All part of the plan, according to Bruce Arians.
They were fine. I had to pull him out a couple. That first period, I said, okay, you can have 4. They kept begging to go back in, but the only thing I didn't want him in was the blitz period where, some guys might get around him too quick. Just still be careful with what we're doing with him, and yeah, trying to stop him from playing is pretty tough.
Arians says he was most impressed that Brady was practicing at full speed. Full speed. Not a term usually associated with the 43-year-old, but the fact is that Tom's been winning the battle against time pretty much forever. Is this the year, though, that time catches up, JJ?
Well, my brother right there next to me right here, he knows that I come on the show plenty of times saying Tom Brady is done. Tom Brady does not have the arm strength anymore. He can't not make all these throws. And that's how it looked half the season last year. It looked like, man, they need to put him on the bench because he's not making these throws. And then Tom finds a way to throw the ball 100 yards, be on point, be accurate, and look like he's 21 years old out there playing. So I think that's exactly what we'll see this season. We'll see some up and down with Tom Brady. It'll be some games to where he looks 44. And then it'll be some games where he looks 21 and we're sitting over here like, man, this guy still has it. I think that's the type of season that he will have. And you never know. He might be sitting there holding up another Super Bowl. But it will be an up and down season for Tom.
Man, you ain't lying, James. I feel the same way, man. Look, I agree with you. Yeah, you were the guy on Total Access talking about how old Tom was getting. And late in the season last year, I kind of started to agree with you because between weeks, 9 and 12, they went 1-3, man. I'm thinking, look, man, this is it for this team. And then they went on after the bye week to win 4 straight and get hot. And that's the Tom Brady effect, man. That's just his mental prowess, how he makes everybody better around him. I mean, I just don't see this guy slowing down. It's just he's had the experiences. He's done everything. You're right, James. They could be hoisting another Lombardi trophy in 2021.
And not only that, Mike Rob, when you listen to his coach talk, Bruce Arians, this dude has played for 30 years in the National Football League, and his coach has to fight to keep him out of a blitz period after knee surgery. So that just shows you the hunger that this dude still is chasing something, chasing greatness. It's going to be tough to slow him down.
And for you at home, don't miss your chance to check in on the GOAT at Bucs Minicamp. We've got your all-access pass.